This video will walk you through a sample entry for an annotated bibliography. Your annotated bibliography eventually will have 5 entries, and this is an example of one entry. Each entry has 3 parts. The first part is the citation, and you've already done your citations, so you should be able, if they were correct, to simply duplicate them for the annotated bibliography. The second part is the summary, an objective summary of the major points of the text that you are citing. And the third section is an explanation of how this particular document is relevant to the documentary, and also how it might help answer the research question. So those are the 3 parts. Let's take a look at how it looks on the page, and then we're going to look at the details of each section. So your entries will begin with the alphabetically ordered last name of the author. So in this case, the first author that I'm going to be using in my bibliography, the last name starts with A. So here it is. Let's say that I have another author and the last name starts with G. That would be the next entry after this one. So you kind of take apart your citations that you've already created and use those for your annotated bibliography. Notice that it is double-spaced throughout. The citation is double-spaced. There's no extra space between the citation and the beginning of the summary. And there's no extra space between the end of the paragraph of summary and the beginning of the paragraph of relevance. The margins are set. There's no heading on these pages. The heading will show up on your introductory page, but there will be no heading for the rest of the document. Let's look at the particulars of a citation. Last name of the author, and followed by the first name of the author. In this case, there were many authors, so you can use the abbreviation et al. Remember that titles are in quotation marks and names of publications are in italics. And then the last item in your citation is the URL. I prefer the URLs to not be live links, but if they are, that's fine. I'm not going to go into detail on the citations because you've already had a chance to test drive your citations and correct them, so I'm assuming that they are all accurate. Let's look at the summary. To start with, it's an objective summary, meaning that I don't assess or evaluate the article. I simply report what the article says. In this case, it's an article. So let's start with a statement that tells kind of an overview, what the article is generally about, and then get into the specific focus or specific argument of the article. And then the next sentences to the end will present the major evidence used in the article, and then have how the article concludes. Notice that there are no quotes. Even though I say, according to Abbasi, this is my own words. I'm taking the major points of the text and rephrasing and purposing them so that I can use original language that I came up with, not that is present in the original document. Another thing to notice is the verbs. Notice I say the article examines, the authors focus on. According to the authors, the article addresses, the authors conclude. So those are some instances and ways that you can use varied verbs to guide the reader through your summary. The article never talks about anything because literally an article does not talk. So that is my pet peeve. So don't use that phrase. And as much as you can, use verbs that convey to your reader who has not read the article the intent and purpose of how the original authors presented the information. So says and states they're usable, but they're not they don't tell your reader very much. So try to vary your verbs. Then the last section is the section that discusses the ways that the particular document that you're writing about help you to answer your research question, and also how it is relevant to the documentary. So I start by stating that this research is relevant to the documentary. Why should the reader take my word for it? Because I follow it with a why, because, a statement like that. So whenever you make an assertion, follow it by a reason. The article relates to my research question. Okay, because, and then you explain how it relates. Throughout the both sections, the summary and the paragraph about relevance, stay away from saying this not followed by any noun. What I mean by that is this, and I followed it with a noun, article. Now the reader of this entry knows what I'm referring to by this. The authors conclude that AI is an important tool. Instead of the authors conclude this will provide clinicians with an understanding of AI's strengths and limitations. So throughout, notice every time you use the word this, and if you have used it, follow it by a noun. Notice that each of these paragraphs is substantive, meaning that I don't confine myself to the bare minimum. In this case, this is 142 words. So aim for close to 150 for each of your paragraphs. My relevance paragraph is 153 words. So that's about the length of a typical entry. I am relying on you to thoroughly summarize the article and then explain how it is relevant, because I, as your reader, have not read the articles. So thinking about a reader who's not familiar with the topic, the research that you've been doing, any of that, it's fairly ignorant reader. So you're giving them the basic information, a citation that they would be able to track back, a summary that's objective, and an explanation of why you chose this particular article to include in the annotated bibliography, because it is relevant. Okay, that's it for today. Bye.